everybody, and welcome to this week's 30 Minutes program. We have an interesting program that I think people of Martin, I think you'll like hearing what some of the things we're going to talk about today. And if not, that's okay too, because we're just carrying on some good conversation that has a lot to do with the city of Martin and also the University of Tennessee at Martin. My guest today is Dr. Nick Dunagan. I've known him practically all of my adult life. I have great relationships with Dr. Dunagan, and today we're just going to be Nick and Paul, if you're okay, Chancellor, because you were there for some 7 years as Chancellor 3 times. Is that not right?
Well, I was just Chancellor one time, but I was interim Chancellor 3 different times. Yeah, starting with between Margaret Perry and
Bob Smith was out there?
Bob Smith. Yeah. It's been a great run, and I've enjoyed it immensely. And I've enjoyed our friendship through the years too, Paul. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I've got to ask some basic questions.
Okay.
If you are a new person to Martin, Tennessee, Dr. Dunagan has, in fact, led the University of Tennessee at Martin to high numbers and a lot of growth at the university. And I thank you for that, and also the people around you that have been able to help us grow the University of Tennessee at Martin. When did you decide that you wanted to get into education? Because you started out as an attorney, is that not right?
That's right. In fact, after graduating law school at the University of Missouri, I clerked for the Supreme Court in Missouri for a year. And I remember very well writing Harold Brundage and saying, hey, I'm going to get through with this Supreme Court clerkship. My wife and I, Kathy, would kind of like to come back to Martin if you've got a position. First letter I got back from him was, sorry, I don't have anything. And then about 2 months later, he wrote and said, I think I may be wanting to take on somebody. So came back to Martin. Honestly, I practiced law for a year. And after a year, I said, I don't think I want to do this the rest of my life. And at that time, the university had an opening for someone that knew something about estate planning, working in fundraising. And so I started in the fall of 1973 as the director of development.
That's 50 plus years that you have lived here in Martin.
Actually, yeah, I've lived here, and plus the 4 years that I went to school here. And something that you may not know this, Paul, I lived in Martin for 2 years, from 1946 to 1947. My dad came to UT Junior College here in Martin at the end of World War II. And while I was born in Gibson County, my first 2 years were spent here in Martin.
All 4 children here?
All four children were born here, went to school here. That's one of the reasons I have a great admiration for our public school system. And I think Weakley County is very fortunate. Martin is very fortunate to have the quality of education that we have. As a parent, I saw great things. And then as the chancellor of the university, or even before I was chancellor, you could see that the kids coming out of Martin, Westview, Dresden, and all of the Weakley County schools, they had a good, solid foundation. And I think that's something that we can be very proud of, and something as people are looking for a place to raise their family. I think Weakley County and Martin are a place that ought to be high on their list.
You know, the one thing that we talk about, how much has the city of Martin growth through the years, or how it has grown through the years. And the reason I ask that, what do you remember seeing that was wow moment in Martin, Tennessee? And I'm not talking about recently. I'm talking about a few years ago, like 30 years ago, you know.
A wow moment.
McDonald's coming to town.
McDonald's coming to town. Even Shawnee's being here. But, you know, when you think back at that, it's not the physical things as much, particularly as I'm retired and nearing the age of 80, but it's the people that kind of have wowed me, the things that they've done. And I think we're kind of going through that process now. There's, things have changed in Martin in the last several months. And so this is kind of an opportunity to kind of retool, to look and see, where do we want to be as a city, much the same way we do at the university. Where do we want to be as a university, 10, 15, 20 years from now? But it's the people.
You've got a record with the United States Army.
I do. It's kind of a funny story. When I graduated from UTM in 1968.
Was it your turn to go?
Well, I had a fairly low draft number, but when I started UTM, it was required that you take ROTC for 2 years. So I did that. I didn't go my junior year. But when I got to University of Missouri, well, the day Kathy and I left to drive to Columbia, Missouri for law school, I got my 1A classification in the mail. So it was going to be, it was coming. And I went to the ROTC program at the University of Missouri, and I finished up ROTC while completing my first and second year of law school. So then got a year's delay to finish law school and a year's delay to clerk for the Supreme Court. So when I got out, I did my armor officer basic course at Fort Knox. And then I was, at that time in 1972, they really didn't need any second lieutenants. And I got in the Tennessee National Guard in 1975. And then I retired in the year 2000 as a colonel, and just thoroughly enjoyed my time and the people that I had an opportunity to interact with in the National Guard. I was company commander in Union City. I was battalion commander here in Martin. Also spent some time in state headquarters and 194th Engineer Brigade in both Nashville and Jackson. But I enjoy it, and I enjoy going to reunions and seeing the old guys.
You know, I asked you the question. You didn't quite answer it, but I think you will on this. New high school. It came in about 27, 28 years. We're talking about Westview. I'm talking about Westview the second time, because they built one in 1971, 72 at Westview High School. And I'm just talking about things that have changed.
Yeah.
Martin High School, the building is torn down, obviously, back in that time. And there are some other things that took place over the last few years. And when we're talking about getting a shopping center, I thought that was a big deal as well. A couple of big deals like that.
Well, and I think now one of the things that wows me is the restaurants that we have here in Martin. We've kind of become a foodie town, particularly with Blake's being on the Food Network. You know, the Grind, the pizza place downtown, Valerio's is going to reopen. I think there are a lot of people that come to Martin for a nice place to eat while they're here. They do a little shopping, or they come here to shop. As an example, and I think Tux is probably one of your advertisers, and this is something free. I have a friend over in Crothersville, Missouri, and they remodel a lot of things. And she always asks me, well, how are things that, is always bragging on Tux. And I said, how do you know about Tux? That all the people in this area, if they really want something, they go to Tux. Said, I come over to Martin at least once a month. And we just have little gems like that I don't think the general public, may be aware of. But Martin is a great, great place to raise a family, to retire in. I'm
trying to think, how far back do you go with the mayors? And Cliff Weldon, I don't know if you knew him.
Oh, yes, I did.
I suspected that you did, but he was probably the one that you came around in.
That's right. And, of course, Bob Peeler, Larry Taylor, Tom Copeland. I remember I think maybe one of the, not the best, but a really good relationship between the city and the university was Tom Copeland. But
every time that you were on campus, when you were working, you had to interact with the mayors.
Yes.
And that's what we're leading to here. And that is with Nick Dunagan. Those of you join us, we're talking about the town gown relationship. So what's that mean to Martin, Tennessee, and to the University of Tennessee at Martin?
I think a lot of it is how we communicate with each other, how we can interact, and how the city of Martin can make UT Martin a better university, and how the University of Tennessee at Martin can make the city of Martin a better place. And so that, in order to do that, I think you have to have people that are talking to each other. Maybe you can, like right now, I know one of the real needs that we have a number of faculty that cannot find a place to live in Martin, Tennessee. And there are some other home shortage areas, but particularly with faculty, I think that probably means someone from the university needs to be talking to someone from the city. And how can we've got a problem here. How can we solve that? And you solve that by getting together and trying to bring the best minds. You get some real estate folks, you get some builders, you get maybe someone in city planning for the university, but it's identifying problems and opportunities. Let's say opportunities instead of problems, but identifying opportunities and then find a solution to them. I think so often we identify what we think are problems, but we don't go about trying to resolve those. And I think that's an important thing. And so you do that by talking to each other.
Well, we got a couple of other mayors, by the way, that have been very, very instrumental, and yet at the same time, they've been very quiet behind the scenes. I think from time to time, one of those, of course, was Mr. Brundage. When he was in here in the 70s, and actually I'm trying to remember, but I believe that he took over in 1982 or 83, and Martin also had a very good man that took good care of the city hall business, if you will.
Robert Neal Glasgow.
Robert Neal Glasgow was one of the best, and in my judgment. And then, of course, we're talking about Randy Brundage, also mayor here, and I think we're missing one more. But the point I'm trying to say is you've gotten to know pretty much every one of those mayors, and you had to intersect with them in that you are having relations that are very town gown that we're talking about. And how did the city of Martin react to the university during its, I won't say early days, but I would like to say maybe late 70s and early 80s during your period?
I think, on a general way, you can say, I think there was a good reaction. I think there has always been a realization that Martin would not be the community that it is without the university. I mean, the university, that many students in a town the size of Martin, separates Martin from other peer cities.
Mayor Carl Savage also said one thing that I'm not forgotten. He said, everybody's jealous of the University of Tennessee at Martin not being in their hometown, Union City, or wherever it happened to be.
Yeah.
And that from time to time. And that really it does something for your community.
It does. I've had some people all through the time I was here, both as a student, as a lawyer, as a chancellor, as an alumnus, say, well, I just don't feel comfortable going on the campus. And I would say, well, why not? Well, I just don't know anybody. And I said, well, I think there's a genuine feeling of appreciation and gratitude for what UT Martin brings to this community.
Well, you and I we may not agree with what I'm about to say, but I mean, the University of Tennessee at Martin is a factory, and their factory is about educating students and bringing the best pieces of equipment that come in, which happens to be the men and the women, the doctors, the PhDs we're talking about, and educators and so forth. And I don't know what it is today, 800 employees.
Yes,
is that about
that's about right, yes.
And we're talking about closer and closer to 10,000 in that number with all of the satellite with the University of Tennessee at Martin. I mean, it's just, we're talking about UT Martin and down in Covington, I guess it is.
Well, Ripley, Selmer, Jackson. Well, and we've got the campus in Germantown now with folks down there. But there are Parsons. It's very possible. One of the things that you said, Paul, I think as a university, the old phrase value added, we bring a student in right out of high school, and then it's our job when that student leaves us 4 years, 5 years, maybe 6 years later, what have we added to them? What's the value that we've added to them? Well, there's obviously some knowledge. Obviously, there's the way they can learn to relate to other people, the way they can learn to use groups to solve problems. So we are a value-added institution, and as are all colleges and universities.
I'm the class of 72, which makes it 76, which makes it 50 years of being a part of the University of Tennessee at Martin. And one of the things that I have seen through the years that I have been here at Martin, and it's the building, the construction, the things that are going on, the ladder. I could name lots of names, and I don't need to be doing it, but we do have a lot of real estate that we now own that we never thought about, that we're getting new places for the kids to sleep. I mean, we're talking about building things, and what is it they say? You know, build it and they will.
They will come. But I was thinking the other day, we're going to have just about a $60 million new business building that'll be started this fall. We're going to have a new residence hall. Really, they're going to be apartments that are where an older dorm is going to be torn down and new one's going up. We have the hub, which is kind of a joint project with our College of Engineering and with, I believe it's Dyersburg State Community College and either the McKenzie or the Newbern Tech Center. And so I'm guessing we're probably going to have close to $100 million worth of construction going on the campus, if not by this fall, at least by the start of the year. That's a lot of jobs, and that's a lot of future growth that we'll have.
Well, let's talk about Martin, the city that you live in. I don't live inside the city. I live just a mile and a half out down. But in reality, things have happened. And unfortunately, whether it be this or that, you can pick up all kinds of things. But Martin is in kind of a tough situation. Yeah. And I recall reading one of your Facebook pages, and I thought you made a very solid message about making sure that you will get past the things that are here. However, it's how we get through the past.
Yeah, I think so too. And, while when all of that was first happening, it was kind of a depressing time, when the world's going to happen. But a couple things. One, I think David Below deserves a real salute for the job that he's doing. He came in very, very tough times. I think the finance committee is really taking hold of some things, and they're saying, okay, what do we need to do to satisfy the comptroller? And so I think it's headed on the right way. One of the aldermen is in the process of, or has been looking at maybe a long-range plan. Where do we need to be 30 years from now? And I think, like I mentioned earlier, when situations change, you can either mope around about them or you can say, hey, here's an opportunity. And I think for the most part, the city of Martin has said, hey, this is an opportunity for us to plan ahead and to do some things that we might not be able to do if it was just the status quo. So I'm positive about it. And probably one reason, Paul, is that I haven't spent my life in any other city, but I've talked to a lot of people, and I just think back as to the education our kids receive, how proud, even though none of them live here now, they are so proud of the city of Martin and come back and enjoy it. I think there are lots of opportunities. I'm a really big advocate for maybe a retirement center here where you come in and you live in a home. Then they have as your life, if you need more help, then there are possibilities there. With the way jobs are now, my neighbor does some work in California, but he lives in Martin, Tennessee, and that's going to happen more and more. So if we can be the type of city that's safe, has some amenities, has a wonderful library, then I think we're going to attract a good citizen here that can be a very positive and a very upbeat situation for Martin.
You think you'll ever be I'll go ahead and say it, a mayor or an alderman? Do you have any thoughts about being involved in that world, or you've done all you need to do and step back and let somebody else do it?
I really love Martin, and I enjoy thinking about, okay, what can we do? But as far as me being in an elected position, I think I would want to be someone that really supported and helped a mayor, or it kind of like on the library. I saw that as something that was very positive for Martin. And so if I could lend some of my expertise and help to get that particular project done, I felt very rewarded, appreciated, and felt that it was time well spent. And besides, I don't think you need an 80-year-old mayor or an alderman. You know, we've got good young folks. Let's try to find out who they are, or you identify them, help them, and be there to support them when they take the office.
You know, the city of Martin, as you drive through it, you wouldn't know that there's any problem. If there is, I mean, I haven't seen it. There's been a lot of criticism on certain venues.
Yeah.
And one of those is something that has become very, very, it has been all of your time that you've been involved in it, and that's the Martin Public Library.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the cornerstone of Martin, Tennessee, and downtown.
Well, yeah, it has been. And when we were raising money for that, and I think it's remarkable that we raised about $1.7 million for that. Now, you know, the city spent considerably more than that. But if you're going to build something, you need to build it not for the year 2026. You need to build it for what you need in the year 2046. About a good part of that library is the event center. And I think that's something that we need. I don't apologize to anyone for the fact that we have probably the best library in West Tennessee. You talk to young mothers with young kids, and they can't say enough good things about it. And I would invite anybody in your audience, if you think that the library was a mistake, let me know when you're going to be down there, and I'll meet you, and we'll take a tour through there and let you see and listen. And I'm very positive on it. Kind of the way, I don't know if you remember when the recreation fields when they were built. I mean, it was the same thing. They're going to have people that don't like to spend any money, but their sons and daughters will be there playing, and they'll see the benefit of it.
Yeah, you're speaking of the Martin Parks and Recreations Complex. Those two things, library and Parks and Recreation, you're not looking to make money. You want to make sure that you make through the money, that you're not out having to, well, unless you have some big problem that took place and so forth. And those libraries, the library and the Parks and Recreation, both, you'll find a lot of people in there.
Oh yeah,
or out there.
You do, and also it's a really big calling card on. I had a faculty member. I've said this before in public. He said, "Man, I really like living in a community where the library is the biggest building in downtown." And you know, it's not as much how big it is, but what goes on inside of it. And we have a terrific staff. This summer, you're going to have kids in and out, just like you do all year long. I would say, like the Park and Recreation area, that could possibly be an additional revenue generator with all of the travel ball, and we have some wonderful facilities out there.
Tourism.
I don't know if you call it reco tourism or what, but I think you ask any real estate agent in town, they'll tell you that whenever we're bringing someone in town, one of our stops at the library, the Park and Recreation area. And I think, and you know, the comptroller, he found some, lack of a better word, errors in judgment. But I don't, other than kind of a shock effect, I think the city of Martin is on a very positive footing. I think we're going to have some good plans. And I think with the folks that live here in Martin, you're going to have a lot of people say, you know, how can I help?
I think the one question that I would ask you as an opinion, and that is, How do you see, how long is it going to take before Martin either gets out of the woods, if you would, or is it already kind of getting that away already? Maybe we are seeing a little bit of the sun on the city of Martin.
I think our low point was definitely that first meeting when the resignations were presented and were accepted, and there was a lot of venting, and I think that was a good thing. The frustration that people have, I think that was the low point, and since that day, I think we're climbing out of that ditch, so to speak, and we're going to make it. And we've got some debt that we've got to overcome. But like I said, I think the finance folks are making an effort. And I think, what is it, 2030, 2031, where we've got we still have a rainy day fund. It's just not as big as the state says it ought to be. But we're going to be all right. That's what I tell you. And you've been on a lot of missions to try to do things in a manner that will be positive, and I hope that I'm not trying to pick something or something else, but we are, and I'm talking about you and I, we're in a time right now where we're going to see some blossoming. Yes, there is going to be some kind of soybean festival, which is a very positive thing taken upon by some of the community members. And I think those are things where if you really, really, really care, you're going to put your money where the mouth is, as they used to say. And I think you have to have people that really care immensely about the community. Yeah. And, I know you to be a man of God, and you care greatly about your community. And I also know that you are one of those people that tries to look on the bright side and I know it's the way we kind of spin this from time to time, but we have to. Yeah. No matter what happens, just remember, if the house burned down, we got to start all over again. Right. Well, and I would say one of the things that I noticed, and I know we're running out of time, but Nassar has done so much for the look of our downtown area. And I think we have a number of folks in the community that will say, hey, how can I help? There's been a lot of business development from folks that Van Swaim has kind of put together. I mean, we have those people, and they're interested in what goes on in an excellent community that makes up Martin, Tennessee.
I'll look at the picture that you and I looking at a glowing kind of picture, one that Martin is coming back in a manner that will be different than what we might have had. Yeah. So what kind of picture will Martin, Tennessee have?
Well, it's a picture that won't be painted overnight. It's going to take a little time, but I see, and you're right. I mean, I'm an optimist. I can't help it. I just am. But I see a rising sun with the pillars of light going out, and a green field, houses, children walking hand in hand to good-looking schools. To me, that's Martin, Tennessee, good facilities and good people.
Hope you've enjoyed our program today. Former Chancellor of the University of Tennessee at Martin, Dr. Nick Dunagan, our guest. He lives in Martin. If you have a question, he's available. Yep. You'll find him on Facebook, or you'll find him in the phone book. I don't know which one it is.
Or you'll find me at Burger King in the mornings drinking coffee with some guys.
That's our program today. Thank you very much, Dr. Dunagan. Paul Tinkle, pre-recorded here on 30 Minutes.
You've been listening to 30 Minutes, a community affairs program on Thunderbolt Radio. You can listen to this broadcast and others anytime by visiting thunderboltradio.com and following the Thunderbolt Radio and Digital YouTube page. Thanks for listening.